Welcome, GM. Hello. This is a big day. This is sometimes used fairly loosely in the Web3 world, but it actually is true today. Today, the biggest ever upgrade in the Elrond MultiversX history will go live for governance vote. Before that happens, we wanted to make sure that everybody has a really good overview of what's happening, why it's happening, and what's actually in the proposal. And so we'll talk about that today. Just a word on perhaps the importance of governance in this process. If you've been following MultiversX in the past few months, let's say you know we love governance processes, spent a lot of time debating every aspect of the last economic proposal before bringing that to governance, had a record turnout for it. We're hoping for similar results for this one. And again, kind of want to make sure that all the stakeholders that are actually going to be voting on it know kind of exactly what's in there, why it's in there, and what the changes are. So we're taking the time to go through the proposal step by step and give a little bit more background. And of course, I couldn't do that myself. So I'm bringing in reinforcements. And so today, happy to introduce you to two of the core engineers working on this great update, which are Radu. Kish, I think is the right way to pronounce your last name.
Yes, hello. It's nice to be
Rarely,
here.
rarely seen on camera over there
Yes.
on the right. And Adi, one of the main architects behind the Supernova upgrade. How are you guys?
Hi. Yeah, great. Happy to finally have the discussions about the upcoming upgrade.
Yes, and I think we'll basically just jump into this. The agenda for this walkthrough is quite straightforward. We're going to take a look at the actual proposal and get a little bit of background on each of the points, what they actually mean, have a little bit of a technical explanation to what this upgrade means. I think we've shared quite some context and content on this. We'll continue doing so over the voting period, but just have like a human sort of walkthrough of what we're actually looking at in terms of the proposal. So I think we'll just jump into it unless you guys want to say anything else before getting into it.
No, I think we're good.
All right, let's check it out. So first of all, you will find this later on governance.multiversex.com. The vote will be open today, that's January 8th, to January 18th, so 10-day voting period as per usual. And everybody who's staking or liquid staking should be able to participate. I think, and you guys can correct me on this, if you stake your EGLD, let's say I buy some EGLD and stake it on day 5, am I still able to participate?
Yes. Yeah, you should be able to participate unless it's with liquid stake, because liquid stake needs to take a snapshot. And I believe the snapshot will be taken today.
Okay, great. So let's go through it. Adi, I'll pass the mic to you. We're reading 165. Is that how many we've done? Supernova 2.0 protocol upgrade. Maybe say a word about why this is 2.0, because I think we've been going through a lot of 1 point somethings, and give a little of background of what Supernova 2.0, the protocol update, actually is.
Yeah, so we had this is a complete redesign of critical components. It was started with Andromeda, but we didn't change the version number, the major version number with Andromeda, although it did change the consensus model. But now, together with the consensus model, we've also changed how the execution is happening, and we decided that this is due for a major version number. So it's a complete redesign. And it also introduces a major shift in how the user experience is perceived. So if before you would have the interaction with the blockchain would feel a bit slow because you had multiple blocks, especially for cross-shard execution for the cross shard transaction. You would have to wait multiple blocks until you've seen the effects on the destination shard. Now it will feel completely instant. So this is why it's also okay to change the major version. Also, we have changed in the critical places, so it's not exactly backwards compatible. It is backwards compatible for the transition period, from the moment we announce it until the moment it's getting activated on the mainnet. It is backwards compatible with whatever was on the mainnet before, but after the activation epoch, it's no longer backwards compatible, and every validator will adopt the new logic, the Supernova logic.
Nice. So let's also maybe frame particularly like what does this governance vote actually enable? Like this is the approval to activate the Supernova protocol upgrade. What does this sort of activation mean? What does the rollout kind of look like? Why are we having this vote right now? I don't know. Let's go kind of step by step.
Mm.
In terms of like what are people actually voting on? Is this a specific piece of code, or is it, let's say, the general idea of it? What are people making a decision on?
Yeah, so basically people will decide that they want the Supernova upgrade, which has this major improvement in terms of speed and user experience. And now the finer details about how it's going to be activated on mainnet is that we had to include, because it's such a major change, we had to include several activations on the mainnet. So the first transition or activation will be the transition to a timestamp in milliseconds because before every block had a timestamp in seconds. So first we needed to activate this finer grain timestamp in milliseconds. Then we had to have a period where previous operations that are no longer supported by the Supernova, such as scheduled transactions execution and partial mini block execution, get kind of get a finalization somehow before Supernova gets activated. Now about the scheduled mini blocks or scheduled transactions execution, this was actually similar to what we're doing now with the asynchronous execution. It was executing in parallel to consensus, but not entirely. So it was sort of like the incipient version of Supernova, which we had since I think 2020 or early 2021 on the mainnet. So currently, with the shift in Supernova, we no longer need that scheduled transactions execution. And also, we no longer need the partial execution of mini blocks, since currently all the entire blocks will be executed atomically and in parallel to consensus. So these two changes, deactivating them helps us start with a clean slate for Supernova.
And I also want to ask or address something. I think some people were asking, okay, previous releases, we had full testnet, devnet sort of available for the public before voting on something. Why is this done this way? Before we had a little discussion about this. I think I'll just summarize and you can maybe add anything that I'm missing. Basically, because this update is so large, it requires two separate sort of audits. One is a professional audit, which will be done by Certic. The second one is this battle of nodes, which we'll talk a little bit later on. but basically not having this go ahead that actually we want this, the community is approving this upgrade, and only and spending money on the audit, spending money on the battle of nodes. It makes sense to seek approval now and then go into this phase kind of directly after the governance vote, which is the certification through CERTIC, the security audit, and then the public security audit, if you will, and battle test through the network, and then also there's some idea of like, okay, if we have everything ready, but then we start the governance, and then we have the 10-day implementation period or activation period, that's another 20 days that we then need to wait for something that's ready. Is that right to summarize it like that, or am I missing?
Yeah, I think you summarized it perfectly. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, great. So last thing, of course, we need to discuss what happens when this doesn't get approval, because this is not something we do take for granted. We hope this does get through because it is a very exciting update. What happens if this is not getting approval for whatever reason?
Yeah, I think the chances of this not getting approved are very low, because everyone was excited, at least from the feelings I got from the community. Everyone is excited for Supernova. We are excited for Supernova. There has been a lot of work put into this until now, like the research period, the analysis, prototyping, the implementation, testing. Like we already started. This is kind of the second phase after Andromeda. Andromeda was the first phase. So it's, I think people already agreed with Supernova since Andromeda. But yeah, we definitely need to go through it just to have this validation from the community. If it doesn't get approved, yeah, it would be a shame, because Supernova brings so much improvement that it honestly doesn't make sense to not want it.
We'd come back with an even better proposal,
Yeah.
whatever that is. Sub-second finality and great things. But yes, so very much hoping for the community to agree with everything that is proposed here. And now let's chat about what's actually being proposed. I'll bring that up on the screen. And Adi, maybe let's start with the rationale and a little bit of an overview here.
Yeah, so the rationale was that we wanted to have make MultiversX one of the fastest blockchains out there, and for this, initially we started with Andromeda, where we had instant finality. So as soon as you have a proof that a block has passed consensus, that block is already final. It cannot be reverted. And now building on top of that, we are reducing the block slot, like the block time, to 600 milliseconds from 6 seconds. Of course, as we've seen also with the demo, this is the first step. We can go lower, but kind of we want to have the validation with 600 milliseconds first, and see how the network is prepared, if the network is prepared to have even larger reduction in the block slot. So the main, I would say, the main blocker for us going to 600 milliseconds was the fact that we had the execution in sync with the consensus. So when a block producer or a validator on the network who proposed a block, when it was proposing the block, the validator needed to also execute the transactions inside that block. So only after having executed the transactions and having a result for those that execution, it would propose the block with the execution results and have that block pass through consensus. Of course, the other validators in the consensus would have to also execute those transactions, reach the same results, and only if they reach the same results, they would vote on the block. And the execution time, depending on how many transactions there were in such a block, could take up to 4.5 seconds out of the block slot. So all the other time was used for communication. So for the consensus phases, to pass through all the consensus phases that we reached a proof that consensus has been passed. And all the other time, 4.5 seconds, was spent on execution. Now, if we wanted to have any improvement, either we had to shorten the execution time, or make it that it's no longer relevant for the block time. And we chose this second path, where we completely decoupled it from the consensus. And then we have the consensus being run on a proposed set of transactions. So no longer having to wait for the transactions to be executed, but just proposed the ordered transactions that need to be afterwards executed. Everyone agrees on the set of transactions. And in parallel, with agreeing on these transactions, everyone also does the execution. So as soon as everyone has finished the execution, these execution results will be notarized on the next available block by the next proposer. So then we have the next block pass through consensus and have also a sort of consensus over the previous block execution results. Of course, this is the first phase of Supernova. What we wanted to push first out there on the mainnet to have this large improvement in the user experience. Of course, after this, we can come with other improvements such that we no longer need to wait until an execution result gets notarized on the next block. So we could potentially finalize also the execution result, sort of consensus over the execution results in the same block space, block round.
And I'm sharing the telemetry again here just to also visualize this a little bit, right? Like maybe you just want to touch on quickly like what we're actually seeing here, and also what the potential is of going even way lower than the 0.6 seconds that are now going to be part of this proposal.
Yeah, this is a demo we started before Christmas. I'm happy that it's still working fine. We actually
101. That's very good news.
Yeah. I think we will stop this testnet network in the following days, because we want to have more networks available for internal testing. So probably we will stop this at the end of this week. We'll stop this demo. But what's happening here is that this is testing the Supernova in action. And you can see that most of the times we have consensus being reached up to 100 milliseconds into the round, milliseconds into the round. So much less than the 600 milliseconds that we have currently allocated for the block. Of course, this is an internal testnet, so it doesn't have that scale as we have on the mainnet. The machines are basically the same as we have on the mainnet. So from this point of view, this is the same hardware. And we're not actually stress testing it with a lot of transactions right now. So this is also why you can see that most of the blocks end in below 100 milliseconds. Of course, pushing a lot more transactions on this network would increase the consensus time here up to, I would say, 250 milliseconds. So from what we've seen or what we've measured on the mainnet, regularly like more than 99.98, I think, of the blocks on the mainnet, we reach consensus in below 250 milliseconds. So if we take the same topology, we expect the same results also after the upgrade to Supernova. But we'll see how it behaves, and we have these measurements live, and people will be able to see how their validator is behaving. And And if they are below the threshold, for example, the next threshold could be the 400 milliseconds. So if we want to see if we are ready to further decrease the runtime to 400 milliseconds, then we need to have 99.98% of the network being able to have that lower times for consensus. Yeah, so this is also a tool to see how ready we are to further decrease the block time.
I'll just add here, like, for one, in layman's terms, it's insanely fast. Under 250 milliseconds, over like almost 100% of the transactions doing that. And then it shows what the potential is. This is only 2.0, right? So this is the first iteration of this new consensus mechanism, and the potential to actually lower the transaction times is there and actually already very much visible on this dashboard. You can check that out in your own time. Let's actually get back to the proposal. I just thought it'd be a little bit of a visual aid here to look at it.
Yeah, so besides decoupling this consensus from the execution, we also had to find a way that the network behaves correctly for the majority of the nodes. So currently, we have some requirements for the hardware that validators are using. And according to those minimum requirements, we need to make sure that whoever respects those minimum requirements is able to participate in consensus and produce blocks and earn rewards. So with that in mind, we have created also a component which is an results inclusion estimator, which basically validates that a minimum requirements machine would be able to or would have been able to execute the block and would have had enough time to produce the results that are currently being added on a block. So according to this component, we are ensuring that all the validators that respect the minimum requirements that we have set are able to actively participate in consensus and produce blocks and earn rewards, also with the Supernova upgrade. Of course, from the point of view of the economics, nothing has changed. So at the end of the epoch, the same rewards as we have now on the mainnet would be generated through inflation or from the transaction fees and distributed to the validators with the exact same like amounts as before the Supernova upgrade. What has been done was to adapt the Supernova and the smaller block times to ensure this is true also after the upgrade. And of course, what everyone is expecting and will be available after the upgrade would be the enhanced user experience that is brought with these smaller block times.
Exactly. So now let's get into the meat of this beautiful architecture, and let's talk about these 4 points that are crucial for the for the new upgrade. Just give us an overview, maybe a little bit more depth on each of these points, what the asynchronous execution model means, and all of that.
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, the asynchronous execution model means that the execution happens asynchronously and in parallel to consensus. Consensus is not stopped until the execution finishes, so it happens in parallel in order to improve or not improve, but to avoid proposing transactions that cannot be executed. We had to do a lot of changes also on the transaction pool. So currently the transaction pool or the mempool also has some state tracked for the accounts that had transactions in previously proposed blocks, in order to not select transactions that cannot be executed. So transactions with a higher nonce or transactions with a lower nonce, or basically transactions that do not respect the entire rule set for them being executable. For this or another part of these changes were we had to adapt the block structure in order to be able to include the execution results on or notarize execution results on follow-up blocks. Of course, some of the fields on the blocks were moved to the execution results. So in another container-like structure for these execution results. We had to improve the rules for detecting that a shard is being or a shard is stuck. Also now another stuck, or it's not exactly stuck, but this lagging behind. Basically, it means that a shard has more work planned than it has actual capability of doing. So in these cases, what we do is we adjust dynamically the gas that we allow a block to be or we allow for a block capacity. So in this case, we can move without planning more work than is actually the shard is actually capable of doing. Then for the safety and determinism, of course, we need to have both safety and determinism. And here I already mentioned that the transaction pool now maintains a virtual state for all the accounts that had transactions proposed but not yet executed, or the results of its execution were not yet notarized. As I mentioned before, upon activation, we do some cleanup. So we finalize all the pending partial execution that we have ongoing and scheduled execution that we have ongoing. And this happens before we switch to the 600 millisecond round time. And we have this new block structure for Supernova with the asynchronous execution. So the transition plan that we have for the mainnet after the upgrade, the first activation will be an epoch activation where we have the finer grain timestamp resolution in milliseconds now for every block, and we deactivate the schedule and partial execution. And then after the epoch activation at a certain rounds delta, we assume it will be around 200 rounds into the new epoch, we'll have this activation of the new execution model and the new block structures.
Great.
So I think this is basically, it's basically how it's going to happen and what Supernova has.
And I think, Radu, you were supposed to give us a little bit more insight on how we actually go about this transition, maybe a little bit on the audit, a little bit on the battle of nodes. Walk us through, like, let's say this proposal passes. How do we get from there to mainnet?
Yep. So just a quick context from my side. I'm in charge of providing the operating environment, the shadow fork that we are going to use for the stress testing using the battle of nodes. This is the testnet that we are going to use for the validators, for the builders, for the infrastructures providers to test it, to find the bugs practically. So to try to run different things there. So where we are right now, we are still running on our internal testnets. Like Adi said, we are fixing bugs, running again. We are also running all the integration tests that we have until right now. We run the end-to-end tests that we have with and without the Supernova. So we also want to have a backwards compatibility with everything that ran until now. Yep, like you said, Lucas, we also are going to have an audit from a reputable audit firm like Certic to also go maybe through other places that we are not going to find on the Battle of Nodes. I think the audit and the Battle of Nodes are going to complement each other so that we find the, I hope we don't find any bugs, but we find everything that we can find using these two different approaches. So what we want to do with the Battle of Nodes is to stress test Supernova, find the bugs, the vulnerabilities that might still be in the code after we are finished with our testing, stress testing, internal testing there, using real participants and real workloads. So the synthetic benchmarks and the different scenarios that we have here might not are definitely not enough to validate a huge upgrade like the Supernova one. Yep, we are going to have the Battle of Nodes run for, I don't know, this is just an estimation right now, 2 or 3 weeks maybe, to have the time to run it once, find some bugs, fix the bugs, and then maybe try again after the bugs are fixed to see that they are actually fixed. I said that I need to provide the environment, so we are going to run on a shadow fork this Battle of Nodes. This is a clone of the mainnet state. We are trying to use the mainnet state as a starting point. We are going to change the chain ID. We are going to change the validators there so that the transactions cannot be replayed there. And it's important to do it on a mainnet clone because here we have a lot of heterogeneous state. So we have more than 5 years of transactions on the mainnet. We had tens of upgrades that changed a few things, all of them. And this is where we have a lot of accounts. We had a lot of NFTs, a lot of storage differences where we save different informations there. And this is why we want to have a mainnet-like Battle of Nodes. We are going to have multiple tracks there on the Battle of Nodes. We have the $100,000 in prizes for the validators, for the infrastructure providers, for the builders. So because everybody is going to be impacted by in a good way by the Supernova upgrade, we want to see that all the workflows are still working. Like the validators, we want to see that the consensus is working, that the blocks and that the transactions are processed correctly. We want to see that the dApps and the builders are working as expected with the millisecond timestamps, not the second timestamps that we had right now. We want to see that the user experience is improved with the Supernova upgrade for the dApps. We want to see that the infrastructure provider can keep up with the 10x more blocks that are going to be processed there. I don't know, maybe there are going to be 10x more requests in some cases, and the infrastructure providers should also keep up with this. Yep.
Should we mention, so right now I'll also go to that tab real quick. We have the builders track. In some ways we could say the Battle of Nodes now actually has a $150,000 prize pool because through partners. We were including Certic, by the way. Shout out Certic, because security audits are also important for other projects. Yeah, we have a $60,000 prize pool. 10K of that comes from the Battle of Nodes prize pool and 50K from several partners. This is closing before the governance vote on January 13th. A bunch of tracks, DeFi gaming infrastructure, and then a special prize for AI integrations, plus all of these special prizes that you can see here, for AI, for gaming, for DeFi, for other things. There's lots of cloud credits, yeah, and other good prizes available. So if you're a builder and you're still looking to do something for Battle of Nodes, you won't be jumping into a validator track necessarily, but this is very much ongoing right now. And you can still jump in until January 13th. So just a little encouragement there. And then you see all of these other tracks. We'll see them populate up here. We have the Builders track live. We have the Guild Wars live. We have some side quests for content and community if you want to write about what this upgrade actually means and those things. The Guild Wars will be very exciting as well, kind of forming little groups that will then battle test the network in their own way. But I think, as you were saying, Radu, the protocol integrity, basically finding bugs, making sure everything works, is the critical point of this battle. But we're very much looking forward to starting that very soon after the governance proposal actually gets the approval, hopefully. Yeah, anything else to add on the rollout, Radu or Adi?
Not really, no.
Then I will introduce at least one tech enthusiast to the stage who has been excited about Supernova as much as many of us. Welcome to one of the technical co-founders of MultiversX. Lucian, how are you doing?
Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm good. How about you guys?
Happy Supernova Day.
Sorry?
Happy Supernova Day. We're getting very close.
Supernova Day, indeed. I'm great. It's a new year, fresh start. A lot of exciting things ahead of us in 2026, especially kickstarting the year. I think as in good old days, I would say, if I would just to recall a memory, most of our holidays were known, especially at the beginning, for spending the Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve actually in the office trying to deploy some contracts, making sure the last patches are out, and then going back to the family, going back to the families for a couple of hours just to until everybody falls asleep, and then checking again that everything runs. And yeah, I mean, if I look where we are today, I think it's 8th of January 2026, and ready to roll out perhaps one of the most important updates that we as an ecosystem have prepared and ready to ship.
Yeah, if you like, from your perspective, and you mentioned like the history a little bit, just as context, as you know, somebody who's been there and seeing this baby grow, so to speak, for such a long time, what makes this upgrade different? Why is it MVX 2.0, not just 1.9 or whatever we would usually be on?
Yeah. So look, I think I would start with the path of that. With Supernova, we're actually delivering on what the initial Elrond and now MultiversX core promise was: an internet scale blockchain with sub-second finality and instant execution, achieving 88 below 100 seconds block times in initial testing phases on a full sharded blockchain, especially running on consumer grade hardware. Now, if I look where we started, I think 7 years ago. The initial path now, from the moments where we ran the initial benchmark on what each of the steps would require, each of the computational steps require in order to achieve consensus, signature verification, and so forth before writing the white paper, and then achieving the performance actually from the white paper measurements to the initial implementation. That was, I think, if I remember, a 20x improvement alone from the theoretical standpoint where we started, and to the point where we launched with the 6-second block time initially. And then fast forward, if I look at the second or the major promise of what Supernova, especially in terms of technical capabilities, would be, and which was 600 milliseconds. And looking at the implementation of the engineering teams, especially the protocol teams that have delivered, especially even if we're talking only about initial testing phase, right? So initial lab environment, achieving in some cases even 60 milliseconds block time and finality internally. That's alone another, I think, over-delivered achievement that myself personally, I was surprised, I was excited about, and even right now it's crazy to think that, and understanding a bit what any kind of computational architecture requires in terms of time. That's just hard to comprehend, and also very extremely challenging to say. To see it in production, especially with achieving this kind of stuff. So that's maybe the first point. Another point that I would build on top would be the evolution of Andromeda consensus, which was the foundation into the proposed execute model, which slash latency, boosts throughput, enable seamless scalability, anticipate the growth, actually setting apart from the monolithic chains that fragmented the pretty much the layer 2 solutions, right? So now if I look at that, those alone in those market times are hard to appreciate, especially not put into until we see them into production and until we learn how to build and leverage this kind of stuff. But maybe building on, so we had the initial phase beyond 6 seconds, actually a lot slower and so forth. We shipped a very big important milestone with the initial architecture. But now if I look at the latest upgrades when it comes to 600, and then also with the dashboard that almost highlights a bit what the network will look like in the upcoming versions with even 400, maybe 200 down the road upgrades. That's just a different level of execution. Maybe I would go to a point beyond what we're just shipping ourselves, and move a bit to the builders, right? So I think for Supernova, what we're unveiling and releasing is a new environment which is low latency for a lot more complex DeFi, real-time gaming, AI agents, and with the upgraded SDKs. I think we also come a lot closer to the builders with deterministic gas estimation, black box WASM testing, and in order to accelerate innovation, right? So I think it's on the one hand, again, just zooming out. Again, I'll be polarized to just shill a lot of the technical stuff, but also I think it's twofold. So as the market puts a lot more economical pressure for us as builders inside the space, I think on the other hand, we from a technical perspective, we come a lot closer to the builders' needs. to facilitate better tooling, better, faster delivery times, more secure environment, and a lot more smoother user experience for users. Now, if it comes to users, I think it would be users and agents. I expect that with the new latency, there will be a lot more interesting use cases, especially on the agentic payments with millisecond precision timing, clear transaction states, and native supports for agents. That's I think of one of the bull cases that I'm looking forward to. But again, just closing, I don't think we're making ourselves lives too easy. Even though we're close to shipping Supernova, I think there will be a lot of challenges ahead, but with extreme good outcome, especially if us as builders, as an ecosystem, manage to upgrade the infrastructure that that communicates or showcase Supernova capabilities to the users, to the end users, to the front ends, and make it very tangible.
And you mentioned agents, and I have somebody who has a lot to say about agents on the line right here. Benjamin, welcome to this little walkthrough. Your perspective, it is Supernova time almost anyway. We're getting very, very close to having the largest ever upgrade. What does this mean to you, and what are the unlocks in your mind that this upgrade actually brings?
Sure. Really great to have this conversation, and I'm sure both Adi and Radu and Lucian have already expanded on this. I'll be very brief and will only add maybe 2 or 3 points. I think we've come an extraordinarily long way since we've started. I think it's very, very, very easy to forget how difficult and challenging each of the steps have been since the major Elrond genesis. And I think although there's many clouds, although there's many challenges, although the times are not perfect, we are at this massive turning point that will probably mark a new genesis event and moment and milestone. And I want to underscore that there's many, let's say, details, many features that we should be very excited about, that the team has worked tremendously toward. But I think this is so massive that it stands out as this singular moment that people will refer to before Supernova and after Supernova, because it just changes the entire network. The way it feels, the way people build on it, the way people interact with it. And I feel and think this is the major point. What we put on top of it, there's always a few things that we'll be excited about and will like to pursue much more opinionated than maybe we've done up until this point. A lot of focus maybe on just this type of instantaneous network that is also private, that can have interactions with private ego transactions, with privacy on smart contracts levels, and so on. A thing that maybe will be one of the most important moats around crypto and around everything that has been built on this network. And then beyond that, of course, everything around DeFi becomes very natural for Supernova, just because things work instantaneously, feel instantaneously, and whether it's for builders or for users, you can just see the transactions happening in real time, and you can just see people smile whenever they interact with any type of technology like this. Lastly, I think there's a wave around everything that's happening with AI that will literally swallow and eat every type of applications that we have built up until this point and are going to build in the future. It's so exciting and so much happening today, not in the future, that even if we want to avoid this, we'll have different versions of AI applications, agents, and so on interacting with the chain. So, concluding, I'll just state that for users that have been with us from the very start, from Genesis, for builders that have been building through different iterations of this network and architecture, and even for investors that have been through the different cycles, through the different phases, what the team has been building and delivering is nothing short of amazing. And seeing it become reality, seeing it be the playground for all the different people from the ecosystem to test, to think about their new ideas and so on. That cannot make me more excited. So really big kudos to the different teams that have been working through this, and also big kudos to the builders and to the community and to the investors that have been with us throughout this process and are seeing this new Genesis moment come to life. That's my 2 cents, I would say.
Yeah, very exciting days. Thank you, Benjamin. Thank you, Lucian. We wanted to keep this pretty short and crisp. Love the tunes over there, Benjamin, too. That's a lovely cafe.
a different vibe, right? When you hear the French music.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that eases us into this process of going to space. You gotta take some nice music with you. So I'll let you guys go, Lucian and Benjamin, and we'll go over just the logistics of the vote. We're all very excited. Thank you for being here, and we'll chat very soon.
Maybe see you on the other side, guys.
Yes, maybe one I want to just leave the room with one note. I'm voting yes. Let's go. And just making sure that the message is well understood. Thank you, Adrian, Radu, Lucas. Thank you, everybody, and big thanks for holding strong through this time.
Great, wonderful. We'll chat soon. Thank you, Lucian. So just the last logistics of it, I'm just keeping you guys on so you can correct me if I say nonsense here. You will find the governance proposal today at Epoch Change on governance.multiversX.com. Stakers, liquid stakers with the snapshot are eligible to vote. The voting period is 10 days, so it concludes January 18th. This is not necessary. That doesn't mean it's the mainnet launch on the 18th. We talked about there will be a phased rollout that involves critical security audits, both public and private. If you have any questions throughout this process, there should be a little bit more material coming out. You can review the initial proposal, which is still on Agora, that has been made actually in last year. Is this MP27 or something, Adi? Yes. And then if there's any questions, feel free to comment or write to us in the usual channels on Telegram or Twitter, etc. Happy to clear anything up from any side if there's any questions. I'll kick it over to you guys for some last thoughts on the meaning of this upgrade, and then we'll let the people decide.
Yeah, should I go first? Please. Okay. So this is one of the largest updates for the MultiversX protocol. So go ahead, vote. I'm voting yes as well. Hope to see this on the mainnet as soon as possible.
Radu.
Yeah, I'm also voting yes. I want the upgrade. It's going to be, or it's going to feel 10 times faster than before. So we are going to upgrade the user experience for everybody that is going to interact with our blockchain, and it's going to make us one of the fastest blockchains in the world again.
Yeah, very much looking forward to this. Thanks, guys, for taking the time walking us through this and the implications. I thought we heard quite a bit on multiple angles. Again, if there's any questions left, do not hesitate to reach out. Below here somewhere, you see governance.multiversx.com. You'll be able to vote from your Exporter wallet directly as well. Just make sure you do participate, because it does matter. These are not just pro forma things. This is a great indication of how strong the support for these upgrades is, and we're looking forward to seeing all of you participate. So that's it for this walkthrough. We'll see you on the other side. Please make your voice heard. Go to the website or Exportal and vote. We will see you soon. Adi, Radu, thank you so much for your work on this. It's been quite the ride, and we'll connect very soon. Cheers, everybody, and bye-bye.
Bye.